First contact gone wrong. The alien fleet entered the Sol system without warning. Their massive ships, sleek and silent, drifted through the darkness of space, their scanners sweeping across the planets. Earth was their target, a blue and green world filled with primitive life, or so they believed. Commander Vrel of the Xilari Exploration Fleet stood on the bridge of his flagship, observing the data stream. The reports were strange. The planet had signs of industry, artificial satellites, and massive floating structures on its oceans. But the Xilari had explored hundreds of worlds before. Many species built primitive boats before achieving space travel. This was nothing new. "Commander," a young officer reported, "we have detected large metallic objects across the water surface. Possible wreckage or abandoned structures." Vrel nodded. "Send a reconnaissance drone. Let's get a closer look before we report our findings to the High Council." A small, nearly invisible drone left the ship, cloaked in advanced technology that had never failed them before. It approached the planet, scanning everything in its path. The humans would never see it coming, or so they thought. An unexpected detection. The drone moved silently through Earth's atmosphere, hovering above one of the massive floating structures. The humans called it an aircraft carrier, but to the aliens, it was just another relic of a pre-space civilization. Then something happened that had never occurred in Xilari history. A sudden alarm blared inside the alien fleet. The drone had been locked onto by an unknown energy source. "Impossible," one officer shouted. "They have detected our drone." Commander Vrel turned sharply. "No civilization without interstellar technology should be able to detect us." The officers scrambled to analyze the situation. On Earth's oceans, powerful radar systems had locked onto the unknown object. Operators aboard the U.S. Titan, one of Earth's most advanced naval warships, stared at their screens in confusion. "What the hell is that?" one of them muttered. The drone's signal flickered. The humans were trying to jam it. Aboard the Xilari mothership, panic spread through the crew. Vrel gritted his teeth. "Recall the drone immediately. We must remain unseen." But it was too late. Earth responds. The U.S. Titan's commander, Captain Reynolds, watched as the unidentified object hovered above his ship. His instincts screamed this was no ordinary aircraft. "Scramble the jets," he ordered. "Let's give our little visitor a closer look." Within seconds, 2 F-35 fighter jets launched into the sky, accelerating toward the unknown target. The drone detected the incoming threats and attempted to flee, but something strange happened. Earth's technology was tracking it in real time. The drone tried to escape. It moved faster than any human aircraft, weaving through the sky with impossible agility. But the fighter pilots weren't ordinary humans either. "Locking on," one pilot said, his hand steady on the controls. Target acquired. With a click, a missile detached from the jet and streaked toward the alien drone. The Xilari bridge erupted in chaos. "They fired on us. Shields are down. The drone can't escape." Commander Vrel's heart pounded. He had underestimated the humans. "Send a warning to the fleet," he ordered. "If these creatures can detect and engage our technology, we must assume they are a military threat." But as the words left his mouth, the missile hit its target. The alien drone exploded in the sky, leaving only scattered fragments. For the first time in Xilari history, an advanced civilization had lost an engagement to a pre-space species. The galaxy just got smaller. Aboard the U.S. Titan, Captain Reynolds watched the explosion through his binoculars. He exhaled sharply. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't from Earth. "Send a report to High Command," he ordered. "We are not alone." In deep space, the Xilari fleet hovered in silence. The High Council would demand an explanation. How had an uncontacted species developed such advanced defense systems? Commander Vrel clenched his fists. Earth was not what they had expected. And this was only the beginning. The silent standoff. The Xilari fleet remained hidden beyond Earth's moon, their massive warships cloaked from human sensors. The loss of their reconnaissance drone was unthinkable. No pre-space civilization had ever managed to track, let alone destroy, Silari technology. Commander Vrel stood on the bridge of his flagship, his golden eyes fixed on the holographic display. Earth's forces were scrambling. Their primitive warships moved in coordinated patterns, their jets patrolled the skies, and their satellites adjusted positions. They knew. "This is dangerous," Officer Krull muttered. "If they can track our drones, what else can they do?" Vrel didn't respond. His mind raced. The humans had no warp technology, no interstellar fleet, and yet something about them felt wrong. "Send a probe. Passage scans only. No interference." A small auxiliary probe detached from the fleet and drifted toward Earth, scanning silently. It tapped into human radio signals, decoding strange, emotional voices. And then, the entire auxiliary bridge froze, because what they heard was not fear, it was anger. Earth's response. In the depths of the Pentagon's command center, high-ranking military officials gathered around a massive screen. Satellite images showed the wreckage of the unknown drone, its strange alien metals now in human hands. This wasn't a rogue experiment. Admiral Keller said, his voice cold. That thing wasn't from any nation on Earth. The question is, do we shoot first, or wait? General Harris leaned forward. "We got submarines, missile silos, and air superiority. But if they're sitting up there in orbit, we're at a serious disadvantage." Captain Reynolds, patched in from the U.S. Titan, cleared his throat. "With all due respect, General, we already fired the first shot. They sent a drone. We took it down." Silence. "Then we prepare for war," Keller said finally. "Until we know their intentions, Earth stays on high alert." The auxiliaries' fear. Vrel's eyes narrowed as the decoded messages scrolled across the display. "We are not alone. Unknown craft shot down over international waters. Military mobilizing. Stand by for Def Sion 3. Vrel turned to his officers. "They're preparing for war." Krill exhaled sharply. "Commander, we must leave before they develop countermeasures. The humans are unpredictable." "Which is why we stay," Vrel countered. "We must understand them. If they are a threat, the High Council must be informed." He paced the bridge. The auxiliary had encountered hundreds of civilizations. Most fell into two categories: primitive and weak, easily conquered; advanced but cautious, choosing diplomacy. But humans, they destroyed what they didn't understand. They didn't hesitate. Vrel clenched his fists. If Earth was dangerous now, what would happen when they reached the stars? Earth strikes first. Deep in the Atlantic Ocean, a U.S. Navy Virginia-class submarine lurked beneath the waves, its crew tense. Their orders were simple: confirm any unidentified orbital activity. If hostile, engage. Inside, the sonar operator suddenly paled. "Sir, I think we found something." The commander rushed over. The screen showed a massive object hovering just beyond the atmosphere, unnaturally still. "That's no satellite," the commander whispered. A new order came from the Pentagon. Test their reaction. The submarine's vertical launch tubes opened. A single ballistic missile fired, not nuclear, but enough to send a message. In orbit, alarms blared on the Tselari flagship. Incoming projectile. Commander Vrel's blood ran cold. The humans attacked first. Raise shields. The missile struck the auxiliary's barrier, detonating in a silent explosion. The blast did nothing, physically, but psychologically. Vrel realized something terrifying. The humans had no proof of what was above them, and they attacked anyway. "This species," Vrel whispered, "they're not afraid of the unknown." He turned to his officers. "Prepare the fleet. If they want war." His golden eyes gleamed. "They will get one." Earth's unyielding stand. Above Earth, the silent battle had begun. The auxiliary fleet, hidden beyond the moon, now had their answer. The humans had no proof of their existence, and yet they attacked. Commander Vrel watched the replay of the missile strike against their shield. It had done no damage. But the message was clear. Humans did not hesitate. They shot first. Officer Krill murmured, his voice tense. They have no idea what we are, and they still attacked. Vrel exhaled slowly. Not just attacked. They challenged us. A deep silence settled over the bridge. Every species the Xilari had encountered either fled or begged for mercy when faced with an unknown force. But Earth. They struck the darkness head-on. A reckless gamble. In the Pentagon's war room, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The missile strike had been a calculated risk, a warning shot. But now, the waiting game had begun. Any response? Admiral Keller asked, eyes locked on the satellite feed. Negative, sir, an analyst replied. The unidentified object remains stationary. Keller clenched his fists. So they can take a hit, but they're still watching. Then we escalate, General Harris said grimly. We send a recon squad. We make them react. Across the Atlantic, the U.S. Titan, Earth's most advanced warship, received its orders. A covered team of elite operatives was prepped for a high-risk mission. Their objective? Board the unidentified craft. The Xilari's growing fear. The Xilari flagship's scanners detected movement. Something was coming. A human vessel is approaching. A technician reported. Smaller than our scout ships, but heavily armed. Vrel's stomach twisted. They had assumed the humans would retreat or send diplomatic signals. Instead, they were advancing. They have no space fleet, Krill whispered. Yet they act as if they own the stars. Because they will, Vrel muttered. Sooner or later, they will expand. And if they treat the unknown like this, his eyes darkened. Then the galaxy is in danger. A dangerous encounter. The U.S. Titan launched a stealth shuttle carrying a team of 6 elite operatives. Armed with cutting-edge tech, they prepared for humanity's first direct engagement with an unknown force. Inside the shuttle, Captain Reynolds checked his gear. His heart pounded, but his training kept him steady. Mission is simple, he said. We board, gather intel, and get out. If they react, we defend ourselves. The pilot's voice crackled through the comms. We're almost there. No movement from the target. As the shuttle neared the massive alien craft, the silence became unbearable. No defenses activated. No communications were received. Nothing. It was like the ship was daring them to come closer. Docking now, the pilot whispered. A soft metallic clang echoed through the shuttle as the docking clamps locked onto the alien hull. The team exchanged tense glances. Captain Reynolds took a breath. All right, people. Let's see what's inside. As the airlock hissed open, revealing the darkness beyond, everything changed. The silent war begins. Into the unknown. The airlock doors slid open with a hiss, revealing nothing but darkness. Captain Reynolds raised his weapon, stepping into the alien corridor. The walls pulsed faintly, like the inside of something alive. His team followed, their footsteps eerily silent against the metallic floor. Command, we're in, Reynolds whispered into his comm. No hostiles. No response. Copy that, Titan team, came the reply. Proceed with caution. The silence felt wrong. If this was an enemy warship, where were the crew? The defenses. Stay sharp, Reynolds ordered, motioning his team forward. And then the ship spoke. The Xilari's next move. On the Xilari flagship, alarms flared. They've breached the outer hull. A technician shouted. Commander Vrel's claws tightened. He stared at the screen showing grainy footage of 6 human soldiers walking through their ship like they owned it. They boarded us, Officer Krill hissed. Without fear. Without even knowing what we are. Vrel didn't answer. He was watching their movements. Calm. Tactical. Relentless. Humans had no psychic link like the Xilari. No hive mind strategy. And yet, they moved like hunters. Vrel felt something he had never felt in his military career. Doubt. "Seal off Section 7, he ordered. "Let's see how long they survive." The trap is set. Inside the alien ship, the lights flickered. "Captain," Sergeant O'Hara muttered. "Something's wrong." Reynolds saw it too. The walls weren't just pulsing. They were moving. Suddenly, the doors behind them slammed shut. A deep hum filled the air. "We're trapped," Martinez cursed, raising his rifle. "No, we're being tested," Reynolds corrected. "They're watching us." He wasn't wrong. On the Tsilari bridge, Vrel studied the human reactions. "They don't panic," he observed. "They adapt." Krill's mandibles twitched. "Then let's give them something they can't adapt to." Vrel nodded, released the sentinels. First contact turns hostile. The corridor ahead shimmered, then came alive. Shadowy figures emerged from the walls, their limbs twisting unnaturally. They had no faces, only glowing red eyes. Contact. Reynolds barked, raising his rifle. The creatures rushed forward. Gunfire erupted. The first sentinel collapsed, its body flickering like a glitch in reality. But two more took its place. "These things aren't alive," O'Hara shouted. "They're projections." "They're still trying to kill us," Reynolds snapped, dodging an inhuman swipe. Behind him, Martinez set down a small EMP charge. 3 seconds, he warned. The team dove for cover as the device detonated. A pulse of energy rippled through the corridor. The sentinels froze, then shattered into nothingness. Silence. The humans slowly got back on their feet. "Well," Martinez exhaled. "That worked." Reynolds smirked. "Now let's find out who's playing games with us." The Auxiliaries' worst fear. Vrel's claws trembled. "They defeated the sentinels," Krill whispered. "That should have been impossible." "No," Vrel corrected, his voice hollow. "It was a test, and they passed." He looked at the screen, where the humans were pushing forward. No fear, no retreat. Vrel had spent years studying war. He had seen empires rise and fall. But never, in all his time, had he seen a species like this. "These humans, they did not hesitate. They think they're the hunters," he murmured. "But they don't know." Krill gulped. "They don't know what?" Vrel turned to face him. "That they've already won. Humanity's unstoppable advance. The unknown weakens. The Auxiliary warship should have been a tomb for any intruders. Every species that had dared set foot on its sacred halls had been eradicated within minutes. Yet, the humans kept moving forward." Commander Vrel's claws tapped anxiously against his armrest as he watched the impossible unfold on his monitor. The 6 human operatives had destroyed the sentinels, breached the lockdown doors, and now they were coming for the command center. "Seal every corridor leading to us," Vrel barked. "But, sir." Now, the auxiliary officers rushed to comply. But deep down, Vrel already knew. It wouldn't stop them. Nothing would. A relentless force. "Another lockdown," Sergeant O'Hara muttered, slamming his fist against the sealed door. "Then we cut through it," Reynolds said, attaching a breach charge. The auxiliary had thrown everything at them. Traps, illusions, combat drones. Yet nothing had worked. The humans didn't slow down. They didn't hesitate. They didn't retreat. The charge detonated with a boom, melting a hole through the door. The team stormed forward, weapons raised. Beyond the breach, auxiliary guards waited, their sleek energy rifles aimed. For a brief second, the two forces locked eyes. The auxiliary had advanced technology, superior weapons, a history of conquest. The humans had nothing but grit. Fire. The corridor exploded into chaos. The auxiliary's breaking point. Vrel's breathing turned shallow as he watched his guards fall. It wasn't just that the humans were skilled. It was how they fought. They moved like predators. Their formation constantly shifted, covering each other's weaknesses. They anticipated attacks before they came. And when they killed, they did so with cold precision. No hesitation, no wasted movement. It was unnatural. Vrel had commanded hundreds of battles, but something about these humans unnerved him to his core. "What are they?" Krill whispered, voice shaking. Vrel had no answer, because for the first time in his career, he wasn't sure who the real invaders were. A warning too late. Deep within the warship, a desperate message was being transmitted. Xilari High Command had received the distress call. Their warships were already en route, prepared to wipe humanity from existence. But the humans, they had already figured that out. On Earth, Admiral Keller stood in the war room, watching the intercepted alien signals. His face was grim, but his eyes burned with something else. Not fear. Determination. "We're not waiting for them to strike," he said, turning to his officers. "Prepare the fleet." The Xilari thought this was just an invasion. They had no idea. This was a war. Earth's wrath unleashed. A war unlike any other. Deep within the void of space, Earth's fleet moved. Silent, deadly, unstoppable. The Xilari had underestimated humanity's will to fight. And now, they would pay the price. Admiral Keller stood on the bridge of the HSS Vengeance, Earth's most advanced warship. His eyes were locked onto the holographic display of the Xilari fleet. "They're bringing in reinforcements," his tactical officer reported. "Heavy battleships, high-energy weapons. They think they can overwhelm us." Keller smirked. "Let them try." The Xilari's fatal mistake. Commander Vrel's warship drifted in the vastness of space, still recovering from the disastrous boarding incident. Vrel had sent word to the High Council. He had begged them to understand. These humans weren't just another primitive race. They were something far worse. But the Xilari didn't listen. They had sent an armada. Dozens of Xilari warships, each one more powerful than the last, emerged from hyperspace, a fleet that had crushed civilizations. But Vrel knew. This wasn't going to be enough. The trap is sprung. The Xilari fleet advanced, their weapons locking onto the human warships. But Earth's fleet didn't move. "Why aren't they firing?" Krill muttered, watching the battle screen. "They're outnumbered." Vrel's claws dug into his chair. Something wasn't right. Then his eyes widened. It was a trap. Humanity's greatest weapon. "Fire," Keller ordered. From the darkness of space, Earth's stealth cruisers decloaked. Hidden behind asteroid fields and planetary debris, they had been waiting, watching, until the Xilari fleet was exactly where they wanted them. The first barrage hit hard. Explosions rippled through the Xilari ranks. Their forward ships crumbled under the sheer force of humanity's precision strikes. This is impossible," a Xilari officer screamed. "They were hiding their ships, waiting for us to enter their kill zone." Vrel's stomach sank. "They didn't just match our tactics. They outplayed us." The turning point. The battle turned into a slaughter. Earth's warships were smaller but faster, more agile. The Xilari, used to fighting enemies who relied on brute strength, found themselves choking on their own arrogance. Their ships exploded one by one, unable to react fast enough to the humans' unpredictable, relentless assault. This isn't a battle," Krill whispered in horror. "This is an execution." Vrel said nothing, because he knew it was true. The Xilari's desperate last stand. "Sir, enemy flagship is moving to retreat," an officer reported. Keller narrowed his eyes. "Not today," he said coldly. The HSS Vengeance charged forward, locking onto Vrel's damaged warship. Vrel's screen flickered. A human face appeared. "Admiral Keller." "You came to conquer us," Keller said, his voice calm, lethal. "But now you'll crawl back to your homeworld and tell them one thing." Vrel swallowed hard. "And what's that?" Keller leaned forward. "If you ever return, Earth will be waiting." The screen cut out. A moment later, The Xilari flagship detonated. The aftermath. The Xilari fleet was annihilated. The few survivors fled, vanishing into hyperspace, their confidence shattered. For the first time in history, a superior alien force had met humanity on the battlefield and lost. Earth's warships regrouped, standing victorious over the wreckage. On the bridge of the HSS Vengeance, Keller exhaled. "Send a message to all forces," he said. "First contact was a failure, but humanity. We don't lose wars." He turned to the vastness of space, eyes burning with resolve. "We end them." The final stand. The aftermath of war. The wreckage of Xilari warships drifted in the void, broken and lifeless. What was once a mighty invasion force had been crushed by the very species they had dismissed as weak. But Admiral Keller knew better. The war wasn't over. The Xilari Empire was vast, their fleets countless. They wouldn't accept humiliation lightly. On the bridge of the HSS Vengeance, Keller turned to his officers. "They'll come back," he said, voice grim. "And next time, they won't hold back." Xilari High Council in chaos. On the Xilari homeworld, the High Council was in disarray. Annihilated. Supreme Chancellor Ktavos roared. "You mean to tell me that an entire fleet, our best fleet, was destroyed by a primitive species?" Vrel stood before them, battle-worn and exhausted. He had barely escaped the massacre, but now he faced something far worse, his own leaders. "They are not primitive," Vrel said, his voice cold. "They are monsters. They fight with tactics we've never seen. They use deception, strategy, and technology in ways we don't understand." The room fell silent. "They knew our weaknesses before we even arrived," Vrel continued. "They anticipated our moves, laid traps, and slaughtered us like prey." Xavos clenched his fists. "Then we retaliate. We send the full might of the Empire. We wipe them from existence." But another council member shook his head. "And what if we lose?" The words hung in the air. No one dared to answer. For the first time in Xilari history, they had encountered an enemy they weren't sure they could defeat. Earth's final warning. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted across the planet. Humanity had won. But Keller wasn't celebrating. The fleet was being repaired. Defensive grids were being reinforced. Because he knew the truth, the war wasn't over. It was just beginning. A transmission request flashed on his screen. From the Xilari homeworld. Keller smirked and accepted the call. Vrel's face appeared, his eyes dark with exhaustion. "We are at war," Vrel said simply. Keller leaned forward. "No," he replied. "We were at war the moment your ships entered our space. Now, we're ending it." Vrel exhaled sharply. "You don't understand what you've done, human. The full force of the Xilari Empire will come for you." Keller smiled coldly. "Let them come." He leaned closer to the screen. "But if they do, tell them this. We don't start wars. We finish them." The transmission cut out. And across the galaxy, the Xilari trembled, because they had made a mistake. They had awakened humanity. And now, there was no turning back.